Joining me now is Shai Franklin, a Middle East analyst and the former executive of the World Jewish Congress and a partner with Gotham Government Relations and Communications. Shai, good to have you with us.
Great to be back.
So, Shai, the big criticism from Republicans and Democrats is that, as we heard, she is using an anti-Semitic trope. Now, she claims that she wasn't aware that there was this association with Jewish money being offensive to Jews. It's one of the principles of the protocols of the Elders of Zion. She says she wasn't aware that this would be offensive. She's apologized. Is that enough?
For now, the real test will be what does she tweet tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. She said, I apologize unequivocally. It's unusual in Washington that somebody apologizes unequivocally.
But then came out with conditions, saying that the role of lobbyists should be looked at, and tweeted out some other retweets of criticism against Pelosi, saying that she's staying strong. The bigger question, though, should she be asked to resign from the Foreign Affairs Committee? I mean, Republicans did the same with Stephen King. They rebuked his racial comments and kicked him off of the committee. Should Democrats be doing the same here?
Well, it took the Republicans over 10 years to kick Steve King off the committees. He'd been saying the same stuff for year after year after year. When they lost 3 out of the 4 House races in Iowa, then they turned around and said, you know what, we need to do something about this. This is a safe district for Democrats. They're not losing anything with Ilhan Omar in terms of her district. Democrats came out very strongly against her. Personally, I think maybe, as a freshman with somewhat controversial views, maybe it's not appropriate for her to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee. But again, I would say let's see how she plays out over the next few months.
Well, we do know that just 11 days from tonight, she's scheduled to speak at what is labeled a Yemen emergency dinner. It's sponsored by the Islamic Relief USA. Islamic Relief has been branded a terror financer.
By whom?
By the United States government, by the governments of the United Arab Emirates, rather, and Israel.
So not the United States government.
By the governments of the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Should she be attending these kind of conferences that are sympathetic to Islamic terrorist organizations?
I'd have to see the program of the conference. I don't think it's the role of the president to decide which members of Congress should resign or what committees they should be on. I don't think it's the role of the United Emirates to decide which conferences
But is it the
Americans
role
should speak at.
of Democrats? If Democrats are trying to portray that they're more centrist, that they're not being pulled to the left by some of these more radical, left-leaning freshman congressmen, should centrist Democrats take a stronger stand against this?
Well, they are. There's a new group that was formed in the last couple of weeks. I think it's Movement for a Democratic, pro-Israel majority, something like that, within the Democratic Party. I think the Speaker of the House made it very clear that this is not acceptable. And, the fact that the United Arab Emirates, which is part of this alliance with Saudi Arabia...
And Israel.
Look, the Israeli government, I think...
So
I think that she was wrong to say that AIPAC has too much influence, but I think that if we say that Israel should influence where an American member of Congress speaks, then we're saying that Israel does have too much influence.
Well,
I don't think Israel does.
We're not
saying
saying that Israel should influence. We're saying that she's speaking at an event where there is an organization that has been labeled a terrorist
Israel
organization
and the United Arab Emirates.
By Israel,
not the State Department, not the Department of Justice.
ally of the United States.
I'm going to go with the U.S. government on this.
All right.
I don't think they've said anything about it. It's a legitimate organization.
So she is saying that there is too much influence. Is there an example, do you think, that you can cite where an elected official voted in favor of Israel or took some action in favor of Israel that he or she otherwise would not have had it not been for some kind of donation? Is there any kind of example? Because she's been asked to put forward to put a name. She wants to have a debate. She wants to have a discussion. And yet there isn't one person that she can say, so-and-so was against Israel, then received Jewish money,
I think
Israeli support,
the fact that she said
AIPAC, and changed their views.
The fact that she said AIPAC is clear that she has no sense. She's really new to Washington. She has no sense that AIPAC doesn't actually make donations. AIPAC is not a political action committee. It's not dark money. There's a lot of money going around Washington. A lot of members of Congress are influenced by their major donors. Are pro-Israel donors more influential than others? Is our policy in the Gulf, is our policy in around the Arab world more influenced by oil money than by Jewish money or pro-Israel evangelical money?
But is it possible, Shai, that these elected members of Congress and government vote this way because it's what their constituents want.
Of
because
course.
Their constituents support Israel. That they're not pandering necessarily, but they're doing what their voters elected them to do, to support Israel.
There's so many arguments against what she said. There's the national security interest. There's the shared values. It's not a perfect democracy, but neither are we. It is the best democracy we have in the region.
But because it's not a democracy, is it possible that this is because of what the U.S. voters want their congressmen and senators to do?
Of course, it's very popular. It's like motherhood, apple pie, and Israel, of course.
Do you think that the Democrats then have a problem? Israel used to be an issue of bipartisan support. You are seeing that there seems to be more of a split in the Democratic Party against Israel. The recent bill supporting Israel, it had 22 of 47 Democrats voted against this bill.
That's Trojan horse from the Republican side, because there's a very clear case you can make that this is a violation of First Amendment rights and that it actually would not pass muster in the Supreme Court. So there are ways of designing anti-BDS legislation that avoid that, and Democrats have pushed for those.
You don't believe that the Democrats have a problem with these far-leaning
No, and we're talking about a handful.
Far-left-leaning members.
We're talking about maybe a half dozen new members of Congress, right? The anti-Semitism in the Republican Party is from old members of Congress, including Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the Republicans in the House.
Statement.
Kevin McCarthy put out basically an anti-Semitic tweet in October saying that the election was going to be bought by Bloomberg, Steyer, and Soros. Now, they three happen to be Jewish billionaires, not the Koch brothers.
But they also happen to be billionaires.
There are a lot of billionaires who put money in the last race.
Well, we will have to debate Kevin McCarthy's so-called anti-Semitism another time. But good to have you with us, Shai. Always a lively discussion. Shai Franklin.